Hello and welcome to the Heaven Bound Podcast. My name is Jason Harden. I'm here with Roger Schaus, and we're opening the Bible in search of fuel for your spiritual journey. This is where we talk about life the way it was meant to be and what it means to be a disciple of Jesus in the 21st century. Wherever you are, thanks for joining us on the journey today.
We're so glad to have you with us today. This month, we are kind of looking forward and anticipating our upcoming VBS. This is going to be June 21 to 24. We're almost there. VBS is exciting time around here. Just tons of people pour all kinds of energy into making things exciting for the children. For the adults, we always bring in a guest speaker. And this year we're bringing in Sean Jeffers. Sean currently preaches in Orlando, Florida. And he's going to follow our theme for this year, which is the joy of the journey. And he's going to be talking about journeying together, the idea of our working together, our fellowship together. He's going to start off by talking about the need for one another. And then he's going to talk about the need for unity, the need for encouragement, the need for active membership, the need for growth, and the need for gratitude. All those are wow lessons, I would call them, just exciting lessons we need. And they just kind of all tie together with this idea that we journey together in this work of the Lord. The children are going to be talking about journeys with Jesus.
Yeah, of course, one of the things that makes Vacation Bible School special on the younger ages front is some sort of a theme that they can get plugged into. We can take some Bible lessons and really tailor it for their young minds and hearts. We're going to be certainly not just wasting time. We're going to be talking about the journeys of the Apostle Paul. And Roger, you and I just kind of borrowed from the first of those in our last Friday discussion. Be brave is what those children will be talking about in connection with the first journey. The second journey, that we have so much material from the book of Acts, that's actually going to be two lessons. Be happy and be ready. The third missionary journey, be busy, and Paul's final journey to Rome, be right. And so whomever you are, this is a great opportunity to make the most of this summer. We've said a couple of times in different contexts, summer isn't the time to take your foot off the gas of your spiritual interest or development. This is a great way to grow individually, but also as a family. And Roger, here on Fridays throughout the month of June, what we're doing is just borrowing, especially from those children's topics. Last Friday, be brave. Today we're going to focus in on this idea of being ready from Paul's second missionary journey.
Yeah, I think about that hymn, All Things Are Ready, Come to the Feast. And that is just a great invitation hymn a lot of us have sung. When I think about Paul and his journeys and being ready, I mean, just story after story just jumps out of the book of Acts. But particularly for me is in Acts 16, where he and Silas have been preaching. They got some resistance. Their outer coats were torn off them. They were beaten. They were thrown into prison. And right there would be just a wonderful opportunity for a person just to kind of lay low, take care of your wounds, and just be quiet. But what they do is they're singing hymns, and the prisoners hear them, and there's an earthquake, and the doors are opened up. The jailer there is scared, and it's dark, and he takes out a sword ready to commit suicide, because what the Romans will do to him if the prisoners get out is going to be worse than what he's going to do to himself. And right then, with all those things going on, the Apostle Paul preaches to the jailer, be ready. And so that brings up to us the wonderful idea of opportunity and being ready when opportunity comes to us. And so, Jason, let's just kind of talk about that and look at some different layers of that.
Yeah, well, I think that is a great example, but really this second missionary journey shows that over and over and over again. In the beginning of Acts chapter 16, you've got Paul running across a young disciple named Timothy. Timothy is ready and willing to go with the Apostle Paul. How in the world does such a young man come to be ready? Well, a lot of work had been poured into him, we find out later on in the writings of Paul, by his mother and his grandmother, right? And so it is hard to quantify the impact that young Timothy has on not only the life of the Apostle Paul or eventually the church in Ephesus, the saints in the first century, but what we know because of the letters that Paul wrote to Timothy, of course, 1st and 2nd Timothy, later in the New Testament, so much of that goes back to here is a young man who is ready to go, ready to serve, in many ways because of the work of his mother and his grandmother. After that, you've got this Macedonian call, right? Where there is the vision that Paul receives. Come over to Macedonia and help us. And when Paul had seen the vision, listen to this in verse 10, immediately, Luke says, we sought to go into Macedonia. There's an opportunity and we're ready. You read about the conversion of Lydia after that. Here is someone who is ready to hear the good news. We could keep going beyond what you read for us from the Philippian jailer into Corinth and beyond, but it sure does seem like one of the things that makes these journeys special and the people that Paul crosses paths with is the fact people are ready to hear, ready to respond, ready to serve, ready to do whatever they can in the service of the Lord.
Yeah, I think about that passage in Galatians 6, verse 10, that says, so then while we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who are of the household of faith. We use that expression when opportunity knocks. Sometimes when opportunity comes, it's not a good time for us. You get a phone call on a Saturday morning and somebody needs your help. Well, I was going to spend a day in the garage just getting that all straightened out. Well, am I ready? Am I ready to go help this person? After services, you ready to go to the restaurant, get something to eat, but someone says, can we talk for a moment? Are you ready to do that? And so this idea of opportunity doesn't come often when we are ready or willing, but it comes, and we have to be ready at those times. We have to be ready to serve, ready to teach, ready to hear. And those are great moments as we think about this. I want to go back to that Timothy beginning because there are just layers of lessons there. You know, this apostle shows up. Now, he is an apostle, but technically he's a stranger. And they don't know much about him. And he is so impressed with Timothy. Timothy has been showing himself to be responsible and useful to the disciples, not just in Derbe, but also Iconium and other places. And so he wants to take them with him. But when you look at what happened before this, Paul had already been stoned and dragged out of town as nearly dead. This is not going to be a vacation trip. This is not a sightseeing trip. No cell phones. Would Mama ever see Timothy again? Would Timothy be killed on this trip? But she let him go. She let him go. She realized this was something that was greater than us. It was something for the kingdom, and she was ready to let him go. That's important as parents. That's important as we think about serving the Lord, to be ready and to get ourselves that way. So, Jason, let's go back and talk for a minute. What does a person have to do to be ready?
Well, as you were talking, I was looking there at Acts chapter 16 and verse 2, just thinking about this. He was well spoken of. Timothy was well spoken of by the brothers and sisters at Lystra and Iconium. One of the most fundamental things I can do to be ready is to live the right sort of life before the opportunity comes, right? We talk about that in various contexts with these different men and women in Scripture. You think of someone like a young Joseph in Egypt being tempted by Potiphar's wife. How in the world does that very young man withstand such a strong temptation? Well, one of the things that we've got to take into account, Joseph didn't wait until that moment to decide whether or not he believed in God. and whether or not he was serious about integrity, holiness, righteousness, doing the right thing no matter what. Same sort of thing here. You know, if Timothy had lived in whatever rebellious pagan way he wanted to live, and then here's this intriguing opportunity to see the world with someone who's going to be traveling all over the place, but Timothy was just known to be a scoundrel. Timothy was known just to be some sort of hedonist who just does whatever he wants to do in the moment. Well, that opportunity would not have been his, right? Paul wants Timothy to accompany him, not because he is perfect, undoubtedly. Paul, more than anyone, knew the value of the grace of God and the amazing mercy of Jesus Christ. But a lot of the work had been done before the opportunity. Roger, many times in these podcast episodes, you've talked about God preparing David, I should say, on the hills outside of Judea long before Samuel came along and anointed him king of Israel.
Absolutely. And again, there's just layers of examples in our Bibles. We think about Daniel in Daniel chapter 1, a young man taken to Babylonian captivity. Verse 8 says he made up his mind that he was not going to eat the king's food. There's certain food Jews were not supposed to eat. Away from home, away from mom and dad, off in the college dorm, I can live the way I want to live. Daniel made up his mind. He was ready to serve the Lord. And so when we think about opportunities to help the Lord, help the kingdom, it's not always something that's planned and something we thought out a long time ahead of time. Sometimes they just come at the moment. You're in a doctor's office and the conversation goes with another patient or a nurse or a doctor, and the conversation turns to spiritual things. Are you ready to engage in those conversations? And what happens before this, that gets us ready. How many sermons have we listened to? How many Bible classes have we been into? We can just kind of float through those things like we're in a biology class and I'm watching the clock hoping it gets over with. Or we can say, these are times for me to grow and learn and get ready. Because what I learn in these sermons, what I hear in these podcasts and read in these blogs, all those things can be the tools I need to go out and serve as the kingdom of God. You know, over in the book of Ephesians, as God was talking about equipping the church and how he gave apostles and prophets and teachers for those things. And the part of that was to strengthen us, to build us up, to make us mature, so we would not, verse 14, be carried away by the schemes and the trickery of men, but we would grow up and we would become useful to God. So around us are all kinds of tools to prepare us. VBS is one of those tools. Yeah. Sermons are those tools. Reading the Bible on my own are these tools. And how many times have I run into somebody and, you know, I got this guy at work and he asked me this question. Now, I don't know what to say. Well, let's get yourself ready so you know what to say. You know, and again, the point I'm trying to get here is a lot of the opportunities come to us when we least expect us.
Right.
And, you know, you're just taking your dog to a vet, and it's just a regular old visit with a vet with your dog. But right there, as you're waiting, the conversation becomes spiritual. Are you ready?
Yeah, you've got these opportunities, obviously, all around. You mentioned Vacation Bible School. There are constantly needs in our church family for teachers and helpers. Well, in order to be ready to step into that gap, I got to learn the Bible. I've got to be a student of the Bible. Take advantage of those classes that I'm a part of so that when there are opportunities to help others, I'm ready. Roger, you and I both have talked in many different ways, various contexts about how, all right, there are ever evolving opportunities and needs in the life of a church family for deacons and the wives of deacons, eventually shepherds and the wives of shepherds. If I wait until a beloved shepherd suddenly passes away away, and here I am, 60 years old. Well, it's time for me to start thinking seriously about serving in the Lord's kingdom. No. That's not how this works. This is not the way that the New Testament coaches us. If I want to be ready to serve, that starts long before the opportunity knocks on my front door.
And being ready, you think about the Boy Scouts who are ready, or you think about getting ready to go on a vacation. You take all the things you need to take, but readiness implies I'm going to use it. And that's the key there. I'm going to use my faith. I'm ready to teach somebody. I'm ready to serve somebody. A lot of people may be sitting in that easy chair and they think, well, if somebody would call me, I'll go. Well, no, you need to open your eyes, lift up your eyes, and look all around you. And there's great things that you can do without being asked. That's the idea. Get ready first, but then use it. That's the key that we need to see with all of this.
It makes me think of Isaiah's words in Isaiah chapter 6 and verse 8. Here am I, send me, right? And we sing that song every once in a while. There are times, obviously, that someone comes along and says, hey, can we send you over here or send you over there? But the first part of that phrase, so powerful. Here am I am ready to serve.
And what we see with this young Timothy is later on, he is the instrument that Paul uses. He sends him to Corinth. He sends him to Ephesus. He sends him there. And so it wasn't just this one moment in his time. Later on in the book of Philippians, Paul would say in chapter 2 about Timothy, for I have no one else of kindred spirit who will be genuinely concerned for your welfare. So Timothy had within his heart what this was, and as he stuck with Paul and learned more, he became the useful one. We get to the end of Paul's life in 2 Timothy 4. Who's he calling to come? Timothy.
Yeah.
Come before winter, he says. He wants Timothy to come. And so we see this whole journey from Acts 16 to 2 Timothy 4, how Timothy was useful in the kingdom, but it all began by him being ready. And so wherever you are in life, you're a young person listening to this, you're someone, you're maybe a house mom listening to this, you may be an older disciple listening to this. The question is, am I ready? Am I ready? God needs me right now, and can he count on me? Am I ready to serve?
Yeah, and if I'm not, what can I do today? What can I do this weekend to get ready? Roger, obviously there are many other lessons that you can draw out of, even readiness lessons from Acts 16 and 17 and 18, but I think that serves us well for today. Just a good reminder, even though we're talking about this in Vacation Bible School at the level of children, this is something that all of us need to hear. These are lessons that all of us need to take to heart. Be brave, we talked about last Friday. And if you missed that discussion, then it is right here in our sermon podcast feed. So much of what is going on in this second missionary journey, as Paul goes into somewhere like Athens, you see the willingness to say what needs to be said with the right heart, right? Speak the truth in love. But this isn't just a lesson for second graders. This is a lesson for all of us. Be brave today. Be ready. Lord willing, Roger, you and I will take another step in this little series next Friday. But I really appreciate you joining me today. We appreciate all of you for listening to the Heaven Bound podcast. We're excited about this opportunity that starts a little over a week from now, beginning June 21st. Many more details about that on our website and social media channels. But we hope this simple conversation has helped you set your mind on things above and given you a little more fuel for the journey. Always remember, when you're walking with Jesus, you're heaven bound, and the best is yet to come.